What's up, y'all? This is Fanaka Nation, and you are tuned in to Local Vibes.
Thank you so much for joining us in the studio today. How are you feeling?
Man, I'm gonna tell you like how I told Sean out there. I'm doing sweet and dandy like sugar candy.
Nice. And where did that come from? What do you mean? What's the first time you were telling people that? Sweet and dandy like sugar candy.
I feel like just today.
Just today, just came over on the spot.
Yeah, I just walking into the studio, just put me in a good mood. Like just walking in with my friends put me into a right zone, especially after seeing so many episodes. Um, just like also imagining what the studio would look like in real life. Um, so connecting that from what I've seen like online and like so many artists that pass through that I respect and rock with perform on here, like walking into it and performing today myself was like a high, like a new high.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why we're sweet and dandy.
No, yeah. It is definitely. I could see why it'd be cool to kind of like live it now after seeing it for so long.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about your friends, the bandmates, and the set you just performed. What did we listen to?
Oh yeah, so that was some tracks from my last project. It's called Culture Rap One, AFROTRAP, and I recorded a majority of those songs in Nairobi, Kenya, a couple years ago. Um, and it just really put me in the mindset in the zone of what I wanted to achieve, sonically, musically, just idea wise. And it really put me in the headspace of creating what I wanted to perform back here in the Twin Cities. So environment, just putting myself in the motherland, being in Kenya, surrounded by just like the best vibes possible. It really helped me achieve what I wanted to perform and play here.
Why was it? I guess what are some of the reasons why it was so important for you to record this? Out of the country.
Um, I feel like subject matter wise, I just talk about my life, like what's around me, my surroundings, and a lot of my family is actually in Nairobi, Kenya. So just one, being surrounded by family, that already hits different. And the amount of information that they could tell me about like my heritage, about my lineage, like that's everything I need to be in the best writing space possible. So I really feel like environment plays a really big part into it and like what I'm around. Yeah. Um, Sorry, what was the other question?
No. That was just I was just curious to learn more about like why it was so important for you to like record here in comparison to like the
Yeah, yeah,
cities
yeah,
or
yeah.
anywhere else.
Yeah, for sure. Um, like even the track called Minneapolis Sound on my last project, I recorded that here, and I was heavily influenced by a really electric time in music in the '80s when the Minneapolis Sound was really buzzing. My dad actually put me on to Minneapolis Sound, and the two producers who brought that to the world, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Yeah, so um, just from him like putting me on game and seeing like um, hearing like Minneapolis soundtracks and like just vision. Honestly, what it did to me, it made me vision like Prince and his homeboys, like running around First Avenue, like what a day in their life would be like. Like it just got me really excited because I want to say, and I feel like we're in a really electric time for music again in Minneapolis here. So just like thinking about the ones that came before, paved the way, and like really took the sound from here across borders, like is really inspirational. And like just from my pops telling me those stories, that's how I created Minneapolis Sound, the song, right here. Yeah, so I think that definitely ties back to the creation process and like your environment.
Yeah. And your dad is a very interesting figure himself because he is a promoter.
Yeah.
And tell me more about him as a promoter and how he brought, music to the United States. African art and African
Yeah,
expression.
man. Shout out Papa Joe. All my homies that know him, they call him Papa Joe. Um, yeah, so in I would say like the 90s and early 2000s was kind of like the golden era of like his promotion years. I mean, he still does it now. He'll still pop out and throw a show or a concert once in a while. But what he really did is he really bridged the gap between like, well, what he really did was he brought East African culture and music here in a really profound way. And I got to kind of watch it unfold as a little kid. Basically, whichever artists and bands were popping at that time, he would host them here, concert wise or tour wise, even. Um, Anyone who knows like older Kenyan music, it's like names like Nameless, Isa, Gidi Gidi Maji Maji, Red Sun, um, and the list goes on. Hardstone, DJ Adrian, like these are key figures and like key people in early 2000s like Kenyan music, Kenyan pop music. So watching my pops bring like those artists here, host them on tour, have them come through the house, perform unreleased songs, just interacting with them, like really watching the things unfold. I think the music bug bit me, like just from watching my dad's job. Um, and like when he would throw shows, I would be at the venue sometimes. I would be at the bar sometimes, at the club sometimes. Like a lot of kids, they go to daycare, but my daycare was the club. It was the bar.
Nice.
Yeah, it was venues.
Yeah.
hmm
So I bet it just goes without saying, just how big of an impact, meeting these artists and getting to interact with them, how much of an impact it had on your sound.
hmm
And you've described your sound as a like hip hop with an East African twist.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that Afro vibe, the East African twist, definitely plays a part in my recording process, my identity, and just how I roll as an artist. Um, a lot because of those artists that I just mentioned earlier out of Nairobi, Kenya. Um, but also because I grew up on hip hop. I grew up on 106 and Park Top 10 Countdown. When this duo AJ and Free were hosting it, and that's where I was like, "Yo, I'm really interested in rap." Um, I would definitely tie it back to like Black Eyed Peas. Um, I would say they were really influential to me as a kid. Ludacris, um, yeah, and as I was watching 106 in Park, I was also watching my dad bring artists from Africa like every week, every month. So I really pay homage and have a lot of gratitude for getting to grow up in both worlds, because essentially that's what the diaspora here is, is connecting those two worlds. Us kids here in the U.S., we look up to those Afro artists and vice versa, Um, they've looked up artists in Africa. They looked up to pop culture, Western culture for since forever, But bridging the two worlds together, I feel like that is a constant thing I'm striving for when I record, when we do shows, me and my friends, when I perform. I feel like I always have that in mind, especially being in such a rich diaspora, here in Minneapolis. I feel very fortunate to record and perform here. Um, I almost feel like music-wise, it's kind of like a gold rush, as far as like the eyes that are increasingly growing to what artists are doing here, the culture that's being created here. Yeah, that's why I always say for the culture, man. I always think about that. I have that in mind.
Yeah, it's definitely a melting pot here for sure. In an additional layer, is your mother's background as well. So how does her, Laotian culture also contribute to this rich and unique sound that you've created?
Oh yeah, tremendously. My mom is actually the reason why I say, yeah, I'm a rapper, but I'm also a world artist. And with just like how we were talking about Minneapolis being a melting pot of cultures, like my house was like a melting pot of cultures. Like my dad will be bringing all these African artists into the basement, rehearsing, like just blasting ideas around. But my mom, she'll be upstairs singing Laotian karaoke. So I will walk upstairs and like my mom and her sisters, they're passing the microphone singing classic old Lao tunes, Laotian music. And it was just a musical house, man, every day. Um, like my parents, they don't perform or anything, but they've had their hands on music like since forever. My dad being a promoter, my mom was always there with him. Whatever concerts he would do, she was at the door, counting ticket sales. Um, she would be in a van helping make sure the artists come back from the venue so they can go to the hotel. They've always kind of been like a dynamic duo that way. And that just ties into like another reason why I do this music thing, seeing how they hustled and continue to hustle. I just feel like there's nothing quite like that immigrant hustle mindset. Um, and they really put that at the forefront. And um, definitely big motivation and inspiration. Like when I touch a stage, I think of them. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
JoJo and
Hmm.
Homie. Yep.
And I'm also kind of curious to learn more about the various names you go by. You are known as Fanaka Nation, but you are also known as Big Baba, and my personal favorite, Green Card Daddy.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So where do these names come from, and how do they represent the themes that are present throughout your music?
Oh yeah. Let's break it down. Man. Okay. So Fanaka is my name given at birth. It derives from the Swahili language, and that's the primary language spoken in Kenya. But Fanaka in Swahili means blessing or like to prosper. And the reason why I feel like I do this music thing is because I really bless myself in this creation process. So when I touch a stage, the hope and the aim is to bless and uplift the listeners. So the name Fanaka Nation, I feel like embodies that 360 experience of us being tuned in into the vibration, into the music, into the message. So that's where Fanaka Nation comes in. Um, Big Baba, that came from this single off my last project, AFROTRAP, called Baba. And Baba is also derived from the Swahili language. Um, it means, basically, it means father or dad. And it just came so naturally because in Kenyan culture, we look after the men in our family that came before us, you know, whether it's a father figure, close guy in the neighborhood, etc. Um, what I am declaring and saying when I say Big Baba is that, hey, like I'm trying to be like the kings in my life that came before me. I'm trying to fill in big shoes. Um, so it's really me having a conversation with the universe, like, yo, call me Big Baba, crown me Big Baba. I'm aiming for it. I'm stepping for it. Yeah, and I also feel like it's a reminder of it's a hunger statement, of never being comfortable. Like, crown me Big Baba. I'm going for it. Yeah. Um, the last one, you said Green Card Daddy.
Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes I forget myself. I am Green Card Daddy. But Green Card Daddy, I feel like it just came into my life. Um, it's hard to have words for that one. That name is just so natural. I feel like it just happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of that's where some of the best names come from. They just kind
It
of
just that
pop
one
up one day.
that one just happened.
Yeah, it just happened. It's like,
I don't
okay.
have a story for that one.
And I guess you've also like what you mentioned earlier. Fanaka Nation, and you've also described this name as a movement. And so what are the goals of this movement, and how do you feel your discography, specifically impacts your audience in comparison to other artists?
Oh yeah. As far as a movement, what I really try to pinpoint is let's have a conversation, And this conversation, although it's musically, is like I like to think like I and my friends when we perform, we're creating a space for conversation. And the reason why it's a movement is because it's important to talk about what's topical. It's important to talk about what's happening, like in real time in the world, whether it's good or bad, because there's both parts involved in life, whether we like it or not. Um, for instance, like tying back to my recent project, Culture Rap One, Afro Trap. I would say it definitely embodies like the conversation of good and bad, and a document of like what was happening in the world at that time. You have happy songs, uplifting songs like Yaya on there, but you also have what I like to call more reflective songs. There's a track on there called Soda is Burning, SOTA is Burning. And it was really a reflection of the uproar after the murder of George Floyd. And so many people at the forefront from all walks of life really fighting for human rights, fighting for black rights, as how it should be. So Soda is Burning was really a document of like people fighting for black rights, not only in the Twin Cities, but how it blossomed into a worldwide movement. Yeah. So definitely having a conversation is what I try to tap into, and what I definitely try to get into as a creator.
You know, after the murder of George Floyd, I'm sure you were in the booth with many artists, creating music about, how you were impacted, by that event. And how was it like to be, experiencing that raw emotion with so many other artists and creatives, in the studio?
It was different. It was different because it was really like, oh man, like we're not alone. We're witnessing this together. And I feel like artists, like, we kind of get it. We're weirdos, you know. So the way that we move through life and like just express, I feel like we just get it. So being with other artists, especially like in the artist community here in the Twin Cities, I feel like I'm very fortunate to be around. I feel like the process was a little easier, because of such a great village, to be in tune with. Um, Even in the recording of Soda is Burning, everyone that had hands on the song, everyone that had hands on the project were my friends, you know. Um, so I feel like those key elements of like who you create with, who you record with, perform with, they all tie back to conversations and the essence of why you do it, you know? And it just made it that much easier because everyone was on the same page, everyone was on board, everyone was feeling very similar things. And we had like one thing in mind with that song too, justice for George Floyd, like say his name, you know? It's okay to say his name even when so many people in the world were condemning it or trying to say otherwise, So yeah, I really always try to tie it back to a conversation. Like, let's talk, you guys. Let's talk.
Yeah, I think that's really important to be able to, to tell people that how important that really is. Yeah.
100%.
And your music isn't the only thing that is central to your identity, too. Dance has also played a key role in your life as well. And so tell me more about Kids Dance, about Total Entertainment, and the Twin Cities Dance Crew.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So funny thing is so I used to okay. Funny thing is before I started dancing, um it was martial arts. My dad got me into taekwondo when I was like 6. And I've always looked up to martial art greats like Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Tony Jaa, and like watching those films, like and watching 106 in Park at the same time. I feel like it was just natural to progress from martial arts into like breakdancing, because I was watching like Tony Jaa, but I was also watching like Black Eyed Peas at the same time. So it really evolved into like a dance affair, and I've always just grown up in such a musical house slash hip hop house. Um, so like I guess it was just like a melting pot of flavors, that got me into dance. But um, even before those companies that you listed that I danced for, Kids Dance. What was the other two you said?
Total Entertainment and the Twin Cities Dance Crew.
Dude, how do you know that?
I don't know. It's like, hey, Nardwar moment. Hey,
Yeah. But before I danced with them, actually, I had a breakdance crew in high school, and that was when I really like started dancing. The name of the crew I will not say. Um, I will not say on this episode, but we were a trio. Shout out to my homies Josh and Dupree. Um, yeah, we were a trio, and we are actually we're actually a breakdance and rap crew. We just did whatever was entertaining.
Nice.
Yeah,
Just a jack of all trades, just doing everything. See
yeah,
what sticks.
yeah. So that was really just like the start of like me dancing, that trio. And we would do anything we could get our hands on. We would enter a bunch of talent shows. We would dance at churches, dancing at the street, at the state fair, etc. Um, but just from like dancing with them so much and doing so many shows, I ran into the owner of Kids Dance, and this is a company that sent me out to like, oh man, just a bunch of schools. I breakdanced at a bunch of school assemblies, hundreds. Like I can't even count. But yeah, shout out and love to Kids Dance, man. That was like my first fun like dance job. Um,
Sweet.
yeah. So that was Kids Dance. Um, Twin Cities Road Crew. I actually met at a Kids Dance show. Shout out to Felicia. She's the owner and operator of Twin Cities Road Crew. Um, basically, Road Crew they used to be Radio Disney, but then when everything went digital, like they converted into Road Crew. Road Crew does a bunch of like awesome, really dope stuff. But yeah, Felicia, Twin Cities Road Crew, they also put me in front of a bunch of people, like dance wise. So shout out and love to Felicia for she put me in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's because of these skills that you've been developing, for years and years that you are known for, these captivating performances, and your sounds, that you've been able to, bring these, all across the globe, right? So can you tell me more about your most recent performance at like the 7th Street entry with OB Original, Mac OC, Tulsi Sound, and others for the Afromatic event?
Oh yeah, that was bumping, man. Afromatic at First Avenue, 7th Street entry was quite an experience. Um, Shout out to Kwame Suave. He's actually the promoter and brains behind Afromatic, and I want to say this was the first Afromatic event. I believe so. But basically, the vision was just to push the envelope as far as Afro culture, Afro music here in the Twin Cities. Because Kwame, he shares a very similar sentiment to me that, yo, some stuff is bubbling here, especially on the Afrobeat, like Afrofusion end. Like, there's never ending dope artists here. Like, it's like a hub. So it all really started with a conversation. And then he came to me one day and he was like, I want to do a show called Afromatic. I want to showcase like some of the dopest Afrofusion and Afrobeat artists that I can think of. So I was lucky for him to hit me up. Yeah, shout out Obi Original, Mac OC, King Swank on the bill. Those are buddies that I've known and respected highly in music and just as friends for a long time. So it was really cool that he hit them up to be on the bill as well. It's one thing to perform like around the Twin Cities, but like to have the fortune and honor to perform around the Twin Cities at various venues, but doing it with your friends, come on, that's like kind of unbeatable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how Afromatic happened. It was a really dope night. It was really jumping. And to be honest, like there was songs that I performed that I even forgot about, and just to see like people's reaction and people like shouting the words back, I'm like, yo, this is what makes it worth it. You know, it was affirmation, good reminder. Yeah. Afromatic, good night.
Yeah. And you're definitely right in saying, that the Afrocentric scene in the Twin Cities has been blowing up recently. There's been, Carbon Sound, there's been Samambo World, and it's been...
Yeah, shout out Samambo World.
Yeah. And it's really, really cool to see how many people are popping out to these events, Yeah. And this kind of leads into my next question, but, some of your most common collaborators include OB, Original, and King Swank. So how have these artists in particular influenced the development of your sound and as an artist?
Oh man, heavily. firstly, like King Swank, he is an artist with many hats. He's a really dope artist, producer, beat maker, um, DJ, even dancer. He may not tell you that, but he can move. And it just so happens that we share big love for East African music too, because he's also of East African heritage. He reps Uganda really hard too, like on all stages. I shout out my heritage. I shout out my people on all stages. Um, like that's one thing we have in common. We wave our flags high proudly. It's like why not? You know, that's one of the reasons why we're here. Um, that's how Big Baba is created. That's how greatness is created. Um, so he kind of also is the technical side in the studio, where I am more of the voice. Yeah, he just has like the technical computer knowledge also. Um, Man, Obi Original, this guy is literally like a reincarnated, like in my opinion, like Fela Kuti. He carries on so many traditions and values of Afro music that is so nostalgic and familiar at the same time. Um, and it's really cool to be around that. And I feel like um, being around his energy and like what he's curated and what he continues to curate, with Ozone Creations, with his own music life, with just like constantly like going after it, but also bringing his community up with him. I feel like just being around like energy and examples like that, make me that much better of an artist. Um, yeah, so they say it takes a village. So I really truly believe in that.
Yeah. And seeing all of you guys and all the work that you've all put out, it's definitely apparent to see how much you've all been collaborating, with together. How much you guys uplifted each other throughout the years.
Yeah, man, I agree, and that's the thing too. Like, so many people they can have success, yeah, but it's like he chooses Obi people like Swank. They choose to bring their community up with them, and pockets where it makes sense, especially. So it's one thing, to punch the ceiling yourself, but like to bring your community up with you, I think is a very special and beautiful thing you can't find everywhere.
Yeah. And not only have you been able to establish, strong relationships with artists, you've also been able to establish relationships with well-known DJs around the Twin Cities as well, and DJs that have also credited you as their favorite rapper, you know. And, what I'm curious is to learn more about your relationship with DJ Mad Mardigan
Yo,
and what it was like to have him as your DJ at your album release show at First Avenue.
yo, shout out DJ Mad Mardigan, man. Yo, that's the Don for real, man. That's the OG. Like when I say OG, he's for real OG, man. He's put so many people on, including me. But having him at my release party at First Avenue, it was bumping. It was really bumping. Um, he's the DJ for the Minnesota Wolves and the Lynx, so he's used to stadium energy. He's used to like thousands and thousands of people in the crowd. So to have him bring that, he really brought that stadium energy to First Avenue. By the way,
I bet. No, I bet.
yeah, yeah. So to have him part of that show where I was releasing AfroTrap, it was really special because Mardigan to me is like before a performer, before someone I'm really inspired by. He's just a good person. He's just a dope person. So I'd say definitely like a big bro figure, and it's been an honor to just watch what he's created. Shout out to his clan, man. Generation Now. I'm part of that group. It's just a really dope collective of entertainers. It started off with solid DJs, like amazing DJs, but really it's I would say an eclectic group of entertainers, really. Generation Now. But yeah, getting to the part where before we even performed together, like low key, he probably doesn't remember this story, but it was in high school when I first saw him. He was on the news promoting a party he did at the state fair, and I was probably like 17, and I found his email or something, And I just hounded him. I was like, yo, I break dance. Like, this is what I do. Like, I think it would be cool if we could collab and do something at the fair. Just like throwing things in the air. And I don't even know if he got those messages, but I just showed up to the fair. And he was like, oh, yeah,
Oh my
I saw your
gosh.
messages.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yo, in a few songs, I'm about to play some James Brown, and are you down to get down on here? I was like, "Psh, yeah. And we did the show at the fair. We killed it, and that's kind of like how our relationship started, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Dang.
man.
That's-
Shout out Mardigan.
Yeah, it's cool for him just to give you that opportunity. He's just like this random kid. It's like, here you go. Yeah, dance, whatever.
Yep.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So
That shows like sometimes you just gotta take a chance, I guess.
no, for sure, yeah. And I mean, it's led to a very long relationship where you guys have helped each other out, perform for each other, and it's great to see.
Yeah.
I guess I would like to learn more about Generation Now. So, what consists of this very eclectic group of artists? So you said it's DJs and performers.
Oh yeah. It's DJs, performers, really like it's DJs, MCs, people like me that will come into an event and just like MC and then break dance in the middle of the function. Really, the talent on Generation Now, I would say, is almost limitless. Shout out to my boy Daniel. He's a hip hop violinist. He gets sent out for all sorts of events, really. And that's another thing, too, the quality of the events. And the events that Generation Now does in general, I would say, is definitely intentional. Generation Now also put me onto sports, bro. I know nothing about sports. Like this past Wolf season was rough for me. I had to have family explain what was happening. I had to have my bros explain. King Swank had to explain to me what was happening in this last Wolves game. Yeah, but Generation Now they play the music for the Wolves games. They do the music for the Twins games. They do the music for there's this really big golf tournament. I can't remember the name of it, but it's humongous, and they do the music for it. But yeah, Generation Now kind of like got me around sports and also opened my eyes to the synergy between sporting events and the artists, the music side. Because there's definitely like a lot of synergy between the two worlds.
Yeah. And now that we're getting to the end of the interview, I'd like to hear if there's going to be possibly a Culture Rap 2. What else do you have planned? Any other shows in the future? This is your time.
Oh, man. So definitely expect a lot more. A lot more. But the next show, I'll start with the next show. It's at the Fine Line, Friday, July 26th. I get to open up for Sean Kuti, Fela Kuti's son. So expect a fun time, a fun party. Me and the crew. Some of the guys that you saw here in the studio today also at the show. But yeah, I feel like I'll leave it at that for now. Yeah, like music-wise, content-wise, just like expect a lot more, The city really inspires me to create, and I feel like this is just the beginning for Fanaka Nation. So definitely expect more.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us in the studio. It was an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you later.
Man, thank you, my man. It's been a big pleasure and an honor. Love.